Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. This is going to be an interesting show because of the recent medical experience that I've had, having a hip replaced, and quite frankly, sharing a bunch of information that most people don't know they don't even know, and quite frankly, need to know that they don't know. So we have vitality expert Dr. Melissa Balizan with us. Melissa, thanks for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration.
Oh, thanks, Scott. I'm so inspired to be here and ready to inspire everybody else.
So I know you've got a long history as a pharmacist and even concierge pharmacy, but you're also a vitality expert. Help everybody understand what that means.
So vitality, as I help you get the vitality back in your life, meaning helping you be more vital, helping you be more energetic, not be tied down. We want to be able to go out and have fun with our friends, go out and have fun with our family, spend time with the kids or the grandkids and run around and not be stuck. Oh, I'm just stuck on a bench because I don't have the energy. So I help you get that vitality back.
Well, that's excellent. Number one, doesn't everybody need it? It's one of the reasons I had a body part replaced. That body part was no longer working, nor is the other one, which will be replaced as well. But some very interesting realizations as you have. Technology is an amazing thing. The medical community, amazing thing that they can actually do that, replace a hip or hips in this case, as it will be. But part of it, again, you're a 26 years as a pharmacist. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And why did you get into that to begin with?
Well, I was really good at science and math, and so I was steering towards going into something. And at that time, I was like, I don't want to be a physician because I don't want to deal with blood. That was my rationale. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go into pharmacy. And I was looking for a cure for a family member as well, who had had some struggles with the system. And so I thought, I'll go into pharmacy. I can do research, I can do things. And so that's kind of what led me into that. And knowing that the world of pharmacy, I mean, the one thing I loved about it when I took my first tour was they gave me a sheet of over 100 different things that you could do as a pharmacist, which I loved. It really inspired me because it was like, oh, I'm not just stuck behind a counter. There's all kinds of things I can do.
Very cool. So did you end up doing those 100 things?
Not all 100 yet, but I have done several different ones. So yes, I've done several different ones, and it was just the opportunities were amazing, just getting my degree. So
very cool. So I know you and I have had prior conversations about there's certainly a place and a need for pharmaceuticals at certain times. But I think the one thing that most people don't know that they don't know is they're not always the answer. And too many is probably not the answer. So how do we ease our way into this? And then we'll get into some more specifics.
absolutely. So my rule of thumb is that there's a time and a place for medication or supplements. But the key is not to just keep piling more and more medications or supplements on top of more symptoms and more symptoms. Let's get down to the root cause and figure out what we need to fix. Like your body part that needed to come out, that was something that needed to come out. You put the new one in that you can be more vital with. And that allows us. So my key is to optimize what you're taking and get you down to the barest minimum. And I use what's called lifestyle medicine. And that is, we look at what you're putting into your body. So your nutrition, we look at how you're moving your body, your movement, and we look at all pieces of health, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, because it all ties together. And just like your body part, there's a piece that had to be fixed, but there's a lot more that goes into just that. There's mental prep for you and mental prep for you to be able to move around, and you have to be mentally capable in order to do that. And so there's pieces that we don't always realize that when we go in, most of the time our physicians, they're very focused. Your surgeon was very focused on that one area, but you need all these other pieces in place.
Well, the one thing, and I learned through part of my career as being an advocate in the holistic disciplines, the alternative disciplines, is that the only thing that heals the body is the body itself. So therefore, I think many times people think, well, if I take this pill, I will be healed. And in fact, I'll make the statement, because I'm not licensed as this, that pharmaceuticals do not heal. They address and mask symptoms. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. The pharmaceuticals and even the supplements, I'll throw those in there as well. It is to treat the symptom.
So it is to treat the symptom. And I think, it has gotten a little nebulous in the marketplace. It's like, well, if I take this pill, I will be healed. But that is not necessarily the case. Now, you might not have the pain associated with the symptom, or you might not have the whatever associated with the symptom, but it will not heal. It simply addresses the symptom itself.
That's true. It addresses the symptom and it allows the body to heal. Now, some medications do alter the body, but it alters the body to allow the body to heal. And that's the key, is the body heals. Our bodies are very smart. We just don't always listen to them. And taking that pill, so when you're in pain, we take a pill because we want the pain to go away. Well, pain is inflammation, and inflammation is your body's way of fighting that area that hurts. So it puts a barrier around it. It flames itself and puts that barrier around it, and it's trying to heal, but that inflammation pushes up against whatever else and causes us pain. And so we want that pain to go away. So we take a pain medication, which reduces that inflammation. And if we do what we're supposed to, and we allow our body to heal, then that pain and that inflammation won't come back as often. This could take time, because if you've been in pain for a long time or you've had an injury, it's not going to be instant. And even pills aren't instant. We think they're instant because they work in half an hour or an hour. But it takes time for our bodies to heal. And if we allow our bodies that time to heal, and we're treating them and nourishing them properly, our bodies will heal themselves.
So now that we've treated something, but we've put in a pharmaceutical that is a synthetic agent of some sort, in most cases, there are also holistic or natural compounds as well. But now we put a synthetic agent into our body. How does our body react to that?
Well, sometimes our bodies don't like that. Sometimes we have adverse drug reactions because our bodies say, ooh, we don't like that chemical, or we don't like that natural thing. Even the natural things, because natural does not mean safe. Natural does not mean safe. So our bodies could react to that, and we could have a side effect or an adverse drug reaction. We could develop a rash. We could develop a headache. We could develop pain somewhere else. We could have nausea, vomiting. These are some of the more mild things. Sometimes that pill can cause some serious things. There's pills out there that we take, for example, well, let's stick with the pain thing. Pain medication, ibuprofen. We pull it off the shelf. A lot of people I know eat it like candy.
Yep.
Have it like candy. But what happens, ibuprofen can actually cause high blood pressure. It can also affect your kidneys. So you have to look at the risk benefit. Short-term use, that might be okay while your body's healing. But long-term use, it could cause some serious things. High blood pressure is known as the silent killer.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens as our body now responds to we take something to be a pain agent or be something for our benefit in one area. You mentioned adverse drug reactions or side effects. what happens if we're on a medication for an extended period of time? Does every drug to a certain extent have a side effect to it or a series of side effects?
Yes, it does. Every drug out there has a side effect of some sort. Every supplement out there even has a little side effect of some sort. These are things that a side effect or an adverse drug reaction is something that we don't anticipate or we don't want to happen. So when we take a medication or a supplement, we take it and we expect a desired result. And when we get something undesired, that's a side effect. So every medication out there that has gone through the process of being approved, check for safety, and make sure it's safe for you, everyone out there, there's published literature, they had at least one side effect. Now, it could have been 1% of the test group that went through it, which is a very small number, but they had a result that they were not anticipating. So that's a side effect. So everything out there has side effects.
So over time, then I've got friends, I've got family members that because of taking a certain prescription has then caused a side effect, which then a doctor working to do the best they can has prescribed a different drug to take care of the side effect, not the first effect, but the second effect, and so on and so on and so on, which ultimately can lead to drug cascading. Can you share a little bit what that's like or what that whole concept is?
Yes, and that's what happens is we take a medication, it causes something, and most physicians they'll treat the symptom. So we have another symptom we're treating. And that symptom could cause something serious like high blood pressure, lupus, all kinds of things, cancer. There's different things that can be caused. And so we pile on more medication and pile on more medication. And that's where I think that I come in, because I look at down and I'm like, okay, well, let's look at, okay, why are you taking this? Why are you taking this? Oh, I'm taking this because of this. My rule of thumb is I would rather switch a medication. So if we went back all the way to square one, where doctor started you on medication number one, and you had a side effect 6 months later, they added something new. I would rather go back and look and change that first medication if possible. Now, sometimes it's not possible to do that. But what happens is those side effects don't happen within a day or 2 days. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them take longer. And because it's 6 months later, your physician, who is great, but doesn't have the medication knowledge, your physician, here's a fun fact, on average has about 600 hours of pharmaceutical training. That's about one semester. And I have over 52,000 clinical hours of pharmaceutical training. So when I look at medications, we are the medication expert as the pharmacist. And so we want to look and see, okay, we ask the question, well, when did you start taking that? And we look back even years, because medications can change because your body may have changed. You may have gained weight. You may have lost weight. You may have changed what you're eating. And that affects the medication, because our bodies affect the medication and the medication affect our bodies. And so by changing that over time, we look at that. And that's why I think it's important to get to the root cause of the problem and fix the bottom underlying and peel back those unnecessary medications. I know that was a long answer.
I think that makes a tremendous amount of sense, because I think, unfortunately, far too many people simply just accept, well, I'm just going to take this, and then, okay, so now this is hurting, so now I'm going to take this, or now this is bothering me, so I'm going to add this. And then all of a sudden, the next thing they know, they're putting a whole bunch of stuff into their body that is really synthetic or a foreign body of some sort, right? I was even thinking of St. John's wort, which is a natural, that what's the big ADR with St. John's wort? Is it Coumadin or
Yes.
warfarin
Coumadin.
or something?
Warfarin or Coumadin is the big no-no with St. John's wort, because St. John's wort we take for, a lot of people have taken to help with depression. And Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, and St. John's wort don't act well together, because St. John's wort can make you bleed a lot easier. That's some very small example. Coumadin can interact with a lot of medications actually out there. There's a ton of them.
Yeah. And again, one of the organizations that I work with, because we were talking about individualized custom nutrition to make sure, trying to match the right nutrition to the right body, but even to realize that within natural, good quality vitamins and minerals and the stuff that's really good for you, there are still adverse reactions that can happen. So that's why I say what I really wanted with this show is to help people understand that there's a lot that you probably don't know that you don't even know. You would never have realized, and well, nobody would ever have given this to me to harm me. Probably a very true statement. Nobody's going to purposefully do that. But if they don't know, the other thing that just popped into my head, I know that there's a certain certain prescription that you can't like drink grapefruit juice with. What's
That's
that
true.
one?
That's true. So grapefruit juice and grapefruit. So here's the thing: they say grapefruit juice, and that's those are most of the statins, and there's one that's it's okay. So statin medications, which help reduce our cholesterol, but you can't drink grapefruit juice, and you can't eat grapefruits either, because where does the juice come from? It comes from the fruit. I had somebody ask me that question. Grapefruit juice is one of those things. There's other things that you drink that can interact. Milk can interact with some medications. Alcohol can interact with medications. So things that you consume, even food, can interact besides the grapefruit. So there's green leafy vegetables can interact with certain medications. So there's things that we have to know how that medication. That's why I said it. Our bodies affect the medication, and the medication does affect our bodies, and each of us is unique. And so that medication or that supplement we take, it may affect you a little bit differently than it affects me.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I think that's a great segue into something that is I got involved in probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even a little bit more than that. And now you just became certified in pharmacogenomics. Help everybody understand, it's a big term. What does pharmacogenomics mean, or what is the study of pharmacogenomics?
Yes.
And then how does that play into our worlds?
So yes, thanks. So pharmacogenomics is the way that your genes affect the drugs. Okay. So some of us have pathways in us that may or may not work correctly. Okay. So most medication has to go through a pathway. So you take the medication, and let's take the medication. Let's drop it in a glass of water. So the medication dropped in a glass of water, some of them will dissolve right away. Some of them will take hours and hours and hours to dissolve. So when you're putting that medication in your body, just like we're putting it in a glass, our bodies have to dissolve that medication. So if the water was our agent to act, so we have genes in our system, so it causes that medication to go into and distribute into the bloodstream, into wherever it needs to go, to the right organ. Okay. So if you have a medication and we drop it in, and your body doesn't have the pathway to break it up like somebody normally does. So if it was supposed to dissolve in that water immediately, and you take it and it doesn't dissolve, it just sits there because you don't have the gene. It's not that your gene is a little bit different. So your gene is not working as, I don't want to say properly, your gene is not functioning as we think it should function for the majority of the population. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that your gene doesn't act like the medication, how we thought it would act. Now, the pharmacogenomics hasn't been around forever. When these medications were first discovered, we would put somebody on an antidepressant medication, and we would try another antidepressant and another antidepressant because it just wasn't working. They weren't getting the relief that they needed. And what happened in the last 15, 20 years, pharmacogenomics was discovered that our bodies are unique, and some of us will act a little bit differently. So we don't maybe have the right mechanism to make that drug convert like it's supposed to. So we have to do something different. So we don't give you that medication if we know that. Now you have to have a test to determine whether or not how you metabolize medications. And if you get that test done, then we know what your gene type is. Okay, so we can decide if you have certain medications, not all medications, but a handful of medications we've done studies on, and you take the medication, and we know that you're a poor metabolizer, so you're not converting that drug, you're not making that drug go active. And so we don't want to give you that particular medication, because if we do, if we're giving you a medication that's supposed to help prevent a stroke from happening, and then you can't convert that medication, you're not going to get the benefit. But if we don't know that you have that gene that doesn't act like we think it should because of the way the medication was designed, you could end up with a stroke. So we don't want it. We don't want that. If we check your gene therapy and we know, oh, wait a minute. Okay, we don't want to give this medication. We want to try a different one that's going to prevent a stroke. Your body's going to metabolize it like it's supposed to, and you're going to prevent the stroke from happening.
And I'm the recipient of this information. Again, a number of years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I had my pharmacogenomic test done, 5 main pathways through the body. And we found out that certain pain medication did not process in my body. Hydrocodone, oxycodone, tramadol, that entire series of or class of medication. Now, that being said, those are all pain medications, but they don't really work on me because of the way my body processes. And we found out this information through this test. But there are alternatives to those choices then, correct?
That is correct.
And there's typically always something that processes through a better pathway, correct?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And what pharmacogenomics allows us to do is it allows us to speed up the process. Okay. So normally your physician, you would go in and you would take a medication, so a pain medication, and you would go back and you're like, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm not getting any relief. So you just had surgery. You're not getting relief. It may take time for them to try another medication, and they would probably go to those 3 ones that you said: hydrocodone, oxycodone, tramadol, because that's kind of a stepwise approach. And none of those work for you. So we have to go out and try a different type of pain medication that you're going to get the relief from. And that's because based upon your profile, we know that you don't metabolize that medication like the original study thought it was metabolized. And so with pharmacogenomics, it allows us to jump forward weeks, months, years versus you trialing and erroring medications. And we get you to the right
I
one.
think that's the biggest piece. There's a problem with trial and error. You know what the problem with trial and error is? The error. That's the problem, right? Is working to try to find. And I think we're in a society today where, unfortunately, far too many people say, give me a pill, it'll fix me. And the reality is it may help the symptom, it may do some things. But this new discovery, which is it's new to many people. It just so happened I was fortunate enough to learn it through some friends, a number of years ago. And when you have that test and that study, but now here's what's interesting. So I learned it 7 or 8 years ago. We found out that certain things didn't work. Then 7 or 8 years later, I have a surgery and the doctor prescribes the same thing that didn't work 7 or 8 years ago, because I, who actually had the information, didn't tell him. Now, before I do my second hip, I can assure you I'm going to tell him. And it was something that our conversation, you and I, as we were talking about pharmacogenomics prior to this show, it came to my awareness. So it's amazing. Sometimes we even know these things, we can help our doctors and we can help our pharmacists a lot. Not that, we're the experts by any stretch, but we should be the experts on our body. And especially if we've had this level of testing done, we should at least try to help them out a little bit.
Exactly. Exactly. And here's the key. Don't just jump out and go find any pharmacogenomics test, because they are not created equal. You got to make sure that you do find a reputable company that can do the testing for you, and then have somebody who can read it. So you need somebody who's certified in order to read that, because it's a lot of gobbledygook. I'm going to use that big word because
That is a big,
is.
very technical pharmacy word right there. Well, and I think that again, it came through our conversations, because I was sharing with you that I had run out of one medication. He refilled it, and I was not, and separated out two parts. The combined medication seemed to be working for me, but again, in reality, it was probably only half of the combined that was working. So when they separated out, the independent didn't work. And you and I were talking, and I all of a sudden was like, oh my goodness, how did I forget this? And thankfully I've not had all that many issues where I have to take a drug in that class. Certainly work hard not to. But I think I think again, a very important part of this show is to help people understand what they don't know. And there are 277,000 adverse drug reactions that cause hundreds of thousands of deaths each year.
Yep.
And pretty much accidentally. Again, not
it's
trying to point fingers. It becomes accidental because they don't know what they don't know. But pharmacogenomics, I mean, quite frankly, if I was a person that had been prescribed a fair number of prescriptions, I would go out and certainly have that test done. Wouldn't that make sense?
Absolutely. And there's targeted, disease states. So pharmacogenomics is a big hit with cancer medications, antidepressant medications, anti-anxiety, some pharmacology, or not cardiology medications. These are the big classes that we've done a lot of sufficient studies in. And yes, if you're taking a host of medications, let's get you checked out. Let's talk and figure out why you're taking so many medications. Unfortunately, the average adult takes over 17 pills a day. Usually 13 of those are medications and 4 to 15 are supplements.
Wow. It's amazing. I mean, I take a lot of supplements, especially with what's happened in the world the last few years. A lot of zinc, a lot of C, a lot of D3, a lot of B, all the B's. You try to let your body do what your body is designed to do and supplement it where you can. Be great to get it out of food, but the ground is so depleted. That's a whole nother show. So, gosh, hard to believe we've run through our time. How do people get a hold of you to learn more about this, to work with you, to just get a better understanding if they're just not comfortable with what's going on right now?
Absolutely. So I have a special link for you. So if you go to drmelissabalizan.com/TV, and my last name is Balizan. I have a special on there for you where you can book an appointment with me. I also have a downloadable for you, free, that you might want to download, because it's questions that you want to ask your healthcare provider, your pharmacist, your physician, whoever's prescribing something, or before starting a supplement, a series of questions that you need to ask yourself or ask your healthcare professional, because there's things that can happen with medications, with supplements. So that's on there for you to download.
Awesome. Melissa, thank you for being here so much. Greatly appreciate your expertise and your wisdom. And I'd encourage everybody to reach out.
Thanks, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you all for being here with Champions of Inspiration. We'll see you again at the next event. God bless.